Hey there, this is the third part in my series going over a guide for each and every Forsaken character in their respective classes. This video is about 07 and Noob, as they fall under the survivalist category, and are currently the only two to do so. So it's going to be a little bit of a shorter video, but if you're interested in any of the other characters, I have videos made just like this one for every other Sentinel and Support respectively. With that out of the way, I hope you enjoy, and we'll start with Noob and do 07 second. Hey there, this is the third part in my series going over a guide for each and every Forsaken character in their respective classes. This video is about 07 and Noob, as they fall under the survivalist category, and are currently the only two to do so. So it's going to be a little bit of a shorter video, but if you're interested in any of the other characters, I have videos made just like this one for every other Sentinel and Support respectively. With that out of the way, I hope you enjoy, and we'll start with Noob and do 07 second. Noob is a very hard character to pinpoint a definitive purpose on. Whenever you're playing Noob, you have a lot of different things to manage, but all at the same time, you're not all that important in the nicest way. I mean, Noob can be played and is pretty much meant to be played pretty selfishly, as you don't really have too much to look out for your teammates with. You can body block with your slate skin pretty effectively sometimes, but that only works if you are directly on top of somebody, and even then it still has a chance to just not work as you are so slow. But the most effective way to play Noob and the best way to help your team is to do all the generators you physically can. While your main sentinels and supports are in the line of fire taking all the damage, if you go around and use your cooldowns effectively and are able to do gens as quick as possible, it allows games to end so unbelievably fast. So your main top priority on Noob is going to be doing generators in your downtime. Another good thing to look out for on Noob is to find the medkit and drop it to your supports or anybody who may be injured and might need it, as you will most of the time be out of the line of fire of the killer. So a lot of the times other people will be busy stunning the killer, healing other people, and they'll just be much more involved with the killer. And if you can find a medkit and drop it to them, it could literally save their life, as they might have just not found it without you looking for it. And you kind of want to play like a pseudo Elliot. If you have the medkit, go and drop it to somebody who is out of danger and can reliably use it. You can be very helpful in that sense, as giving somebody a full heal is always going to be good. The other big thing you want to look out for on Noob is taking aggro from the killer, just pulling them off of other survivors, as you have two abilities that are incredibly helpful to you in chase, and you can run most killers much longer than pretty much anybody else can that doesn't have a stun. So a lot of the time what you'll want to try and do is drink a soda before going in to engage with the killer, running towards them and then trying to distract them for at least a little bit to give your other teammate a little bit of space to breathe, and then either running away or just hovering around. It really just depends on how much health you have yourself, but do keep in mind that your slate skin pops pretty much immediately once you use it. You do have a little bit of a wind up, but if you account for that, once the model meshes with your mouth, it literally just instantly pops. So do not be afraid to use your abilities even in spots that might not look advantageous. I'm now gonna go over all three of Noob's abilities and how to maximize value out of them, when you should use them, what's the best spot to. We have three, so this is going to be a little longer than other ones, but here we go. The first of Noob's three abilities is the Bloxy Cola. This is arguably his most important ability, as it is the backbone of keeping distance away from the killer. Cola has a 2.5 second windup and grants speed 1 for 10 seconds, letting you run 10% faster for that whole 10-second period. As of Noob's most recent ability rework, Bloxy Cola no longer only has 2 uses per match, instead having a 50-second cooldown in between uses. If used correctly, Bloxy Cola is probably one of the most strong abilities in the game, as having speed just completely on demand is absolutely nuts. You always want to try and preemptively Bloxy Cola if you know the killer is running towards you, but you can get it off if the killer whiffs an attack like a Cool Kid walk speed, John Doe spikes, something that buys you a lot of time. You can 100% get it off and run away with your speed 1. Something to look out for when using your Bloxy Cola is make sure not to be under the effects of slate skin, as you will completely negate all of the speed and you will instead just lose everything. You'll get the actual noob achievement, so do that if you want to get the achievement, but you will lose all of your speed, and it is just never a good idea. You'll get speed for breaking out of your slate skin, so never try to time a cola whatever. Just don't use it whenever you use your slate skin at all. While there isn't that much team usage in your Bloxy Cola, it is incredibly helpful as a selfish tool in Last Man Standing. As speed 1 on the go, you can chain it into a normal Bloxy Cola, but normal Bloxy Colas will only give you speed 1 unless your cooldown is below 20 seconds. So do keep that in mind. Okay, as a quick little recap for Bloxy Cola, try to preemptively use it whenever the killer's after you, specifically when you know the killer's coming for you. Always look for openings to get a cola off during chase. If a killer misses a very important attack like a cool kid walk speed, John Doe spikes, or something that gives them a lot of downtime and gives you time to get that cooldown down. Make sure to maximize your speed and always use pretty much all of your stamina unless the killer has run out. Don't waste your stamina, but always try and make the most out of the speed by running as much as possible. That looks feasible. If a killer runs out of stamina, obviously don't just go sprinting away from them, as they'll just regain it and catch up to you. But do try to maximize your speed usage. Moving on to Noob's second ability, his Slate Skin. Slate Skin is probably Noob's most unique ability and definitely probably his best. The ability gives Noob the effect Slate Skin 2 for 6 seconds, which provides 80 overhealth, effectively letting him tank 80 damage before actually taking any damage. But the downside to this is it slows him by 45%, and yeah, it just makes him incredibly slow. Whenever the Slate Skin effect wears off after 6 seconds, Noob will be granted with speed 2 for 2 seconds, but you can also cancel the effect manually for speed 1. Depending on your situation, it can be advantageous to cancel your Slate Skin early, but only if you whiff a killer whiffs their attack, or you have some form of opening, as speed 2 is always going to be better than speed 1. In most cases, you should use your Slate Skin to regain stamina. If you are losing a stamina game, or a killer is right next to you and you know they have more stamina than you, you can go ahead and pop your Slate Skin, regain your full bar of stamina, and run away with your speed to hopefully make enough distance to out-stamina them, but sometimes it won't happen and you are just dead, as Slate Skin does leave you susceptible to things like Jason Gashing Wound and all kinds of other abilities. It can be pretty bad to use in certain situations, but sometimes it's like a last resort. Another thing I would be pressed not to talk about is Slate Skin body blocking. If you see somebody that is like 1 or 2 hits away from death, you can pop your Slate Skin and just stand near them to take hits for them on anybody other than Jason, as Jason will just hit through you. Most of the time this doesn't end up working, as Slate Skin does not give Noob hit priority, and there's kind of just a 50-50 shot that they hit the other person, but it can work as you don't take any actual damage, it'll just hit your overhealth, and it can be a nice dire option if somebody's like about to die. You never know. As a quick little recap for Slate Skin, use it whenever you're out of stamina. Use it to tank large attacks if you know they're coming, but be very cautious with that, as predicting it is rather hard with the 1.5 second windup. And taking hits with it is a possibility, but don't rely on it to save somebody's life. Moving on to Noob's third and final ability, the Ghost Burger. Ghost Burger is a pretty simple ability. You eat it for a 2.2 second windup that gains you Undetectable 1 and Invisibility 4 for 10 seconds. It is incredibly important to note that the Undetectable for this ability does not work in Last Man Standing, as every Undetectable does. You can hide yourself from the initial where you and the killer see each other in Last Man Standing, but if they use any aura reading ability while you are under the effects of Ghost Burger, they will see you. Usually it is best to use Ghost Burger after the killer just killed somebody, as that is most of the time whenever they are going to pop their ability to see where they need to go next. Although most of the time you will be wanting to take aggro from some of your more important teammates, so a lot of the time you should only be using Ghost Burger whenever you are either low on health, need to hide, or are about to go into Last Man Standing. You should always use it at the start of Last Man Standing, as that little bit of time buys you more than enough time to do whatever. Get wherever you need to be. Very important to do that. While most of the time Ghost Burger is just a waste of time, it can be incredibly helpful when used in the right situations. Never just pop it just because you never know. You might be missing out on saving somebody because the killer might have gone for you instead of them. But, you know, it can be important if you want to play selfishly, but always, always, always use it in Last Man Standing, and yeah, that's about it. It's not that complicated of an ability, and you'll just get it with time. That's all I've got for Noob's abilities. I will now give you some closing thoughts I have about him and some other things you might not know about him, and we will move on to 07 and 7. 07 and 7 is by far my worst character, but that doesn't mean like I don't have anything to say about him. It's just I'm significantly a lot less versed to speak on him. But I will try and give some very basic tips for his things in case you do want to learn something about him. 07's role on the team is basically like a trickster. You always want to just be trying to fool the killer, as you don't have very much support capability to like heal your teammates or stun the killer, so he can also be used as an incredibly selfish character if you want to go that route. There aren't very many general tips I can give you for 07 other than, well, like managing your stamina is incredibly important due to 07's like pretty much lack of a good in-chase ability unless you're solid with your clone. So instead of giving you general tips, I'm just gonna immediately jump into the ability breakdown, as there is a lot to talk about with 07's abilities. The first and most prominent of 07's 3 abilities is the clone. Clone is the complete backbone of 07 and what can make him so strong if you use him correctly. Clone basically does exactly what it says. It creates a clone of 07 that can either walk aimlessly with your cursor or pathfind to try and like throw off the killer. This is all dependent on his other ability, Inject, which I'll talk about when you should use Inject, which version of Inject you should use later, but just know that Clone and Inject go basically hand in hand. When it comes to when you should use your clone, you should always aim to use your clone whenever you break line of sight with the killer. If you go around a corner, drop off a high ledge, anytime you lose the killer, always try to use a clone then, as just using one whenever you immediately get in chase is never a good idea. Experienced killers will always know that an 07 clone is a clone and will just find you and chase you down. In the most recent very small buff given to 07, he was made more invisible when using a clone, so it is much easier to lose a killer if you just have to panic use a clone, but never try to do that. Always try to plan out where you want to use your clones before you use them. For extra little things you can do with the clone, you can do something that is called a clone parry, which involves you cloning at the last second right before a killer would hit you, turning towards them, pressing Q, and sending a clone their way. That way the hitbox of your clone collides with the killer's hit instead of colliding with you, therefore effectively tanking a hit when you would have died. It is an incredibly useful strategy and something you should always try and use if you're in a chase at low health. Another thing to keep in mind with clone is that it gives you undetectable, so you can hide from pretty much every aura reading ability unless you're in last man standing while using your clone, because it makes you invisible. As a quick recap, never use your clone whenever you are out in the middle of nowhere in chase. Always try and use it whenever you break line of sight with the killer, and pretty much always try to clone parry as a last ditch effort if you're ever at low enough health to where you'll just die in one hit. It's also not a bad idea to try and tank hits for your teammates using the cursor inject method with your clone. Bringing it near a teammate can let you take a hit for somebody on killers that aren't Jason, because Jason will just hit through it. But that's about all I have to say for clone. We will now move on to 07's second ability, which is Cool GUI. Cool GUI literally just lets you teleport to the furthest survivor spawn from wherever you are when you activate the ability. So if you're on one side of the map, it'll basically teleport you to the other one, or wherever the farthest survivor spawn is from your current location. It is an incredibly strong ability when used in the right moment. The only downside to it is its 6-second wind-up time that can be interrupted by any form of damage by the killer. You should always keep this in mind and never use it in the open, or whenever you know a killer knows where you're at. Never try to use it unless it's last man standing. You always want to be sure you're in a corner or somewhere secluded so the killer won't interrupt your cool GUI and you're able to teleport. It can be used in situations where somebody's getting chased in front of you and the killer's not focused on you, but always make sure the killer does not have direct aggro on you. Don't try to use it in a chase. Don't try to use it when a killer's coming for you. Always just be sure you are completely safe when using it, sort of like a medkit. There isn't very much to say on like strategies for cool GUI other than using it whenever you aren't, well, directly in the line of sight of the killer, as it is literally just a map-wide teleport. So I guess in Last Man Standing, you should always try and pop it at the very start, and then use your clone to get rid of the initial aura read where you and the killer can see each other. So basically, once you complete the teleport, based on where the killer is, immediately pop your clone to get rid of that aura read, and it should buy you a large amount of time if the killer is near where you teleported from or on any other side of the map, because they'll have to wait for all that or just use one of their aura reading abilities and start running directly towards you. As a quick little recap, always use Cool UI whenever you know you're safe. Don't just use it randomly, as it doesn't really do all that much if you just kind of teleport from one side of the map to the other side of the map. If anything, it could bring you closer to the killer. And yeah, that's about it. It's not that complicated of an ability, and you'll just understand what situations to use it in time. 07's final technical ability is the inject. This is the one that goes hand in hand with the clone, and it allows you to control how your clones move around. Cursor lets the clone move well with your cursor. Pathfind makes the clones wander around and look a lot more human-like, and Aimless just lets the clones wander around and walk in straight lines and whatnot. So the real question with Inject is, what situations should you use each of these abilities? From my own personal experience, I have found that Cursor is incredibly helpful with body blocking for teammates and only certain types of fools, but most of the time you're better off with using the other two to try and fool the killer. But basically, use Cursor whenever you want a body block for somebody, or you want clones in certain positions that you think might fool the killer, like if near a generator, running off of a generator, something like that. But don't really use it too often. It's probably the one you'll use the least unless you're trying to help your team out. Pathfind is probably the one you're going to want to use the most. This should be your go-to option when breaking line of sight with a killer in chase and you want to drop down a clone, as it looks the most human-like, and killers will definitely fall for it the most out of all of the three. And yeah, once you break line of sight, immediately pop it and let the clone run. Try to hide in some corner or something while your clone hopefully lures the killer away. But with 07, he is the type of character that once a killer figures out his tricks, it's very hard to actually fool experienced killers. And finally, Aimless. The use I've found for Aimless can be switching up killers. Like if they know you're gonna try and do pathfinding, Aimless can make them think like, oh, this guy's just not very experienced, this works. Although Pathfind is what you're mainly going to be using, Aimless can be helpful in very certain scenarios. Overall, N7's Inject and his clones in general are literally just about mind games. It's all mind games, trying to fool the killers and playing into your clones a lot more than you think you need to. You always want to just, play into your clones like just be one with your clones. That's the best way to put it. Again, as I stated at the start of this section, N7 is by far my least experienced survivor in this game. I don't play him very much, but I hope these tips at least help you out at least a little bit. I'll now go to the outro, and thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it.